My name is Alex. Many
Follow
years
us at
ago, I worked in a very
revengefiles.com.
tightly regulated field. It was the financial services industry, specifically mortgage lending compliance, a world of numbers, laws, and heavy responsibility. Every signature, every decision could profoundly affect the lives of our clients. And my boss at the time was a woman named Karen, but in my head, I always called her Karen Dipshit. Karen was the epitome of a manager who only cared about immediate results. She was always looking for ways to cut corners on procedures and made impulsive decisions that were not based on legal regulations. To Karen, regulations were just annoying suggestions, obstacles to be circumvented to achieve sales goals. The office under her management was a high-pressure environment where compliance was taken lightly and closing a deal at any cost was celebrated. I remember one time, she approved a mortgage for a young family without complete income verification documents, simply because she wanted to meet her quarterly target. When I raised the issue, pointing out the legal and ethical risks, she just brushed it off and said, "You worry too much, Alex. Just do it. Everything will be fine." I had to spend the entire following week legalizing that file, essentially putting out a fire for her irresponsible decision. Things like that happened all the time. My anxiety grew day by day. I was not only worried about my own career, but also for the clients who were placing their trust in the company. I knew that Karen's actions were not just morally wrong, but were also pushing the company to the brink of serious violations. I couldn't stay silent. The first time, I sent a polite email to Karen, pointing out a specific violation in a file we were processing, along with a citation of the relevant law. Her response was an immediate phone call, her voice full of condescension. "Alex, I appreciate your diligence, but you need to look at the bigger picture. We're here to do business, not to be lawyers. Just let me handle it." She completely ignored my warning. The second time, I decided to go a step further. I drafted a formal report, documenting in detail many instances of violations I had witnessed, accompanied by evidence such as emails and related documents. I sent that report to Karen's superior, hoping they would intervene. A few days later, I was called into a meeting with both Karen and her boss. In that meeting, instead of discussing the issues I had raised, I received a response that stunned me. "This is how we've always done it." Karen's boss patted me on the shoulder, saying I was a diligent employee, but needed to be more flexible. Karen sat beside me, a triumphant smile on her face. The third time, which was also the last time, was when I discovered an act that was almost criminal. A client's signature on an important document looked very suspicious, and I believed it had been forged to expedite the file. This was the final straw. I once again reported it to higher management, emphasizing the seriousness of the issue. This time, Karen called me into her private office. She no longer maintained a friendly facade. Her voice was as cold as ice. "Alex, you're putting your career in a dangerous position. If you don't fall in line, I can't guarantee your future at this company or any other company in this industry." That threat was a wake-up call. I realized I couldn't change anything here. This system was rotten to the core. And I no longer wanted my name to be associated with such an organization. That very afternoon, I wrote my resignation letter. I felt both relieved and fearful for the future, but I knew I had done the right thing. I decided to leave the city and move to another state to start over. I thought that Karen and her troubles were no longer my responsibility, and that karma would one day find its way to her. Follow us at revengefiles.com. Luck smiled upon me. With my experience and deep understanding of regulations, I was hired by a government agency that enforces regulations in the very field I used to work in. Now, I was no longer the one who had to comply, but the one who ensured compliance. My new job was to inspect businesses, and in cases of serious violations, we had the authority to revoke their business licenses. From being someone oppressed by the system, I became a protector of that system's integrity. It was a big change, a new beginning that I cherished deeply. 5 years passed, and I had a successful career and a stable life. The past with Karen and the old company seemed distant, just an unpleasant memory. Then, one fateful day arrived. During an agency meeting, a major case was brought up. A financial services company was under investigation due to numerous serious issues and consumer complaints. The agency decided to send all its competent staff to the site to review the company's entire records. And when the name of the company and its leader were displayed on the screen, my heart felt like it stopped. It was Karen Dipshit's company. My superior announced that I would be one of the lead inspectors for this audit. I would have the next 4 weeks to thoroughly review her files and calculate the total fines she would have to pay. A discreet smile appeared on my lips. Karma not only arrived, but it arrived in the most ironic way possible. On the first day of the inspection, I walked back into my old office, but this time in a completely different capacity. I was no longer a subordinate employee, but a government inspector. When Karen saw me walk in with my team, the color drained from her face. Surprise, confusion, and a hint of fear were evident in her eyes. In that moment, I knew that the old debt was about to be paid in full. I was assigned a private conference room, surrounded by towering stacks of file boxes. For 4 weeks, I meticulously went through every page of documentation. And what both amazed and delighted me was that Karen was still using many of her old tricks. The violations I had warned her about years ago were still there, and even more blatant. I pulled out the old reports I had once written for her boss, documents I had carefully saved. I cross-referenced them with the current files, and unsurprisingly, everything matched up. The situation was not looking good for Karen's business. With every violation found, every number added to the fine calculation sheet, I felt a strange satisfaction.
Follow us at revengefiles.com.
But the most ironic and surreal part lay elsewhere. During the inspection, we discovered that Karen's current staff was very poorly trained and had almost no grasp of the regulations. To help them improve, and as part of the process, I was assigned the task of retraining them on how to do their jobs correctly. It was unbelievable. I, who had been threatened by Karen that I would lose my career, was now standing in front of a class, teaching her staff about the very regulations she had deliberately ignored. And they, the young employees working in a toxic environment, were incredibly grateful. They listened intently, asked questions, and thanked me for giving them clear and proper guidance. Karen had to witness all of it, her face stiff, unable to say a word. I'm not one to gloat over others' misfortune, but honestly, this feeling was wonderful. The woman who once said I would get nowhere if I didn't follow her lead was now watching helplessly as I decided the fate of the career she had built on wrongdoing. The old debt now had been paid back in full with interest, not through personal hatred, but through the very rigor of the law.